I met Michael in 1981 when my then 5-year-old daughter Laura and her 8-year-old sister Katie knocked on Michael's door to sell brownies, cookies, Girl Scout cookies. And, you know, Michael was charming to those children. Then at their young age, and I just wanted to read a message that Laura, upon learning of Michael's impending death, wrote, and we shared it with him. Now, this is out of the mouth of babes, only she's 39 now. So she wrote, Michael Miron, I can't say your name without saying your full name. Not sure why, but Michael Miron, I sure do love you. You fill my childhood memories, and they're always laughing memories. Annapolis includes you in my mind, always will. Much love and a hearty, and you've probably heard Michael do this, Auga! Michael, just to share a couple of things that we really haven't talked about. Michael, the little boy. Michael had a little boy in him, and he loved mischief and jokes, and he was delightful, always delightful. And the Ouga and, you know, lots of other things, and you all, if you knew him well, you've seen Michael do little shticks and funny things that just you'll never forget. And on a serious note, the loss of friends is so hard, and it's especially hard as we get older and you start losing more and more of them. And I try to take lessons from that, and life lessons, and I think the life lesson that I've taken from knowing Michael, traveling with him, enjoying Cotignac in 7 years ago, or was it 9? And spending so much time over the years, just having delightful times, but seeing Shelley and Mike take that dream, make it a reality, do those things while they could, was a real lesson to me. And so my wife and I have decided, instead of taking 1 week rather, in someplace warm in February, we're going to stay longer this year, right? And our traveling companions who were only going to come for part of it are now coming for all of it. So we're all taking that lesson. And I just want to say, I will forever and ever miss my friend Michael.
Here, here.
Elaine.
So many people have said these great stories about Mike, so I have an old story that I wanted to share with Shelley and Linnea. I got to know Mike as my boss. He joined the planning commission, and this was in the midst of all the wars with the Maritime Inn and what was going to happen to our waterfront. It was all going to be walled off. When Mike joined the commission, Will was on the commission, Jay was on the commission. This was in the mid-'80s. Mike's first recommendation was what? We take a field trip. That's not how we had to start. He said, why don't we take we haven't gone anywhere, we can leave Annapolis. Why don't we take a field trip to Newport? Why don't we take a field trip to Newport for several days? So all of us went up to Newport at Mike's encouragement. We spent several days there and came back really excited and inspired how we were going to find just like Newport, although we did a better job. And the problem was we didn't have a plan. And we were all, Will was an academic, I was, a typical gear. And it was Mike who said, I never forget it, he used to call all of us minor government officials. More of ourselves than it was appropriate. And we would say, all of us, you minor government officials, you're going to come and go. You're not going to accomplish anything. And he said, the secret here excite the long-term residents of Eastport. You excite them and get them to make a commitment, and you can move on and they'll do all of this, and Mike did just that. Where I would see total chaos with the voting people, fighting with the residents, fighting with the property owners, Mike saw an opportunity. So classic Mike. And he went to get the voting industry, like Larry Belkoff and all these incredible people, sailmakers, Chabin, and got them together with the civic associations, because this was a very unlikely combination. These people had never gotten together with each other. And Mike basically said to them, you know what, you have a common interest. You, the civic groups, you all don't want your waterfront rolled off with intense development and high rises. And you, the voters, you want to be able to keep your boatyards. Why don't you guys get together and do it? And that, the rest of it is history. So when we sit here 30 years later, it was 30 years ago, and we look at, we look at the yards around us, we look at the sailboats coming by, we have much more to thank you for. So thank you very much.
We love Mike, we're big fans of Mike, and I would say the reason West Street, the Arts District, is what it is today. I think Mike was a big driving force behind that. He got us straight away. But my favourite Mike story, and we've been inspired by this here, and I'd say, Eastport is an inspiration for the Arts District, it's an inspiration for West Street. We dream about having this kind of community spirit, and Mike got community straight away. But my favourite story is when we were doing the site where Lemongrass is in Metropolitan and Hudson Touquet. The Economic Development Office was right next door, and Jody and I, to save a buck or two, decided we'd take the asbestos tiles off ourselves. And so Mike would come out from the office with a cigarette, and he'd watch us and just shake his head. He probably even bagged some of the asbestos. That's the sort of guy he was. And so thank God for Eastport, and thank God for Mike Miron.
I got to meet Mike Miron when I first came down to Grand Rock. I was banging on doors in Eastport. Come down the end of the street, and I was sitting on that shelf station. What a great location for a Mike Bush on. One night, and I kept watching this guy come in with his shelf stuff on and off, grease on his nails and everything. And when I got the courage, I said, Mike Bush, Mike Miron, said, what's the chance to put a sign up there? He said, I'd like to let you do it, but I'd still like to sell gas here. And he had a great sense of humor. I think the reason we're all here today to celebrate is all touches in a great individual way. And he used to come up to the State House because when Revolution took place, I actually lived the other end of Eastport, and I was made the official ambassador to the mainland. And they would bring up old combs from Leon Wolf's barber shop, and things of that nature up to the State House. And then one day he came up and said, "I'm getting married." "You're getting married?" Vernon back like himself, and he said, "I really fell in love," and of course with Shelley. And I got to meet her, and he said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, if you don't marry, Mike, they'll arrest you for mental insanity." I went on to do that, and of course they were always into something. I love it when he'd come up and say, Shelley was training for the New York Marathon. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, I was training for the Eastport Bridge Run. Still finished as anchorman. But he was a great person to be around. And when you look in the dictionary and you see community leader, starts off the name Mike Miron. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Ross? Sorry, I just got here. Although I could race, so I'm right off the boat, so I'm not going to say. Well, I didn't know at the time, I knew Mike just passing in the hallways at Maryland when we were in graduate school, that we were going to become next door neighbors. Actually, we sort of got reacquainted about graduate school after we became neighbors. But I told the story at Mike and Shelley's house the other night. I met Mike, actually, I was introduced to Mike before I ever met him, because when we bought our house, the owner left us a nice letter telling us about everything that was wonderful about Eastport. And in the letter, he said, if you ever get invited to Mike and Shelley's house, we're going to drop everything. So obviously, we've lost a great neighbor, a friend, and a colleague. We got to talk about a lot of things, economic development and economics in general. So very sad. Very sad.
Where's open?
I just wanted to, my name's Jess Packer, and my husband and I moved to Eastport on the day of the secession, actually. And we threw our bags into our new apartment, we moved here from Bethesda, and we were like, we moved to the best place ever. There's a party going on outside. And then very soon after, we met Mike at the gas station and became friends. And over the last 18 years that we've lived in Eastport, Mike has always been there in a number of different ways. And even most recently, this spring, we started a new baseball team at Eastport Elementary to try to connect the community with Eastport Elementary, which can be a little bit disconnected. And I sent out an email to a bunch of people, and the very first person to respond was Mike. And he's going to check in to sponsor the baseball team and to tell a little bit about the history of baseball and how the original team in Eastport was known as the Bone Crushers, and how. And then we were talking about it, how there may not be an appropriate name for an Eastport Elementary team now with this impact, but and that was just, it's such an important part of Mike. And when Apple called, when he passed away, they called me, I was up at my dad's farm, and we had this long conversation, and they didn't to say what I really wanted to say, what I had said that they didn't put in the paper, which was the thing about Mike that was so important is exactly what everyone said. He was a connector, and he cared about the whole community by caring about each individual person in the community. Each one of us is here because he cared individually about us, and the community of Eastport is what it is today in the city of Annapolis because of caring about each individual person. And our little baseball team and every single person in the team. I lost a job one day 1,000 years ago, and Mike cared so much about me. It changed my whole perspective on that day, and I think we all just thank Mike so much for everything that he's done, for caring about each one of us individually and making us a better community because of that.
Hey, Will?
Carrie.
Yeah, I see Dick Garrity back there. Back in 1972, I bought a building on 4th Street from him. At the time, it was primarily a residential street, and we had a wonderful time. Mike was a very good friend, and in 1978, just a few years later, the property immediately next door was coming up for public auction. And I went to Mike and I said, Mike, I'm in a little bit of trouble here because, this is Eastport and it's the 1970s and we kind of all been having a little too much fun. And so I wasn't really in a position of going ahead on this on my own. And Mike said, don't worry, Gary, I can help you out. So he and I went to the public auction together. And lo and behold, Mike became a property owner on 4th Street with me as his partner. And we had a wonderful time, a long-time association. And I think the point of it is that Mike really has represented everything about Eastport and the community from the time of the 70s and Marmadukes and all of the whatever else was going on, and the sailing community, and all of that fun to the evolution of Eastport, where it's become more of a residential community, and it's, shall we say, a little more settled. He's even been the godfather of my wonderful daughter. what can I say? We all love him. He's touched every one of us in one way or another, shall we say, and that he was always been a wonderful friend and always willing to help anybody who asked.
Well, since Gary brought it up, since I had a relationship with the truck, everybody remember my truck? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Still there? Still there. It is a story, if you look at all of the things that are on that truck, it is a story of the things that he was involved in, particularly political history. Since I chaired our Public Places Commission, I have suggested that instead of sending that truck off to a charity, that we at least take the back of it off as an icon of
It's sitting there on my jack right now.
I know it is. It's been that.
I think it's a piece of sculpture. Put it in front of my studio on 4th Street.
Well, I agree with you, so maybe you and I can work together to see that. I do want to mention one other thing, is that issue out there that everybody likes, is the market house. You know, Mike always had an idea, saw things that other didn't. And at one time, the market house was filled except for one corner. It was vacant. And he came and said, guess what? You know who I think I could get to be in that little corner? Maybe DeLuca. And so it went from this little corner to, no, it's going to be the whole place that Dean DeLuca wanted. That didn't turn out, and it had nothing to do with Mike or me on reported efforts. It had to do with a lot of other reasons for the corporation that occurred in New York. But nevertheless, he saw opportunities and he saw things and he went after them. And all the other things that you remember that you can see are part of that great vision that he had and that fun thing that he always wanted to make happen. And now we'll work on the icon.
Ellen, maybe you should speak to Shelley about the truck and make an application for the Arts Council. Just say it.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I was fortunate enough to follow Shelley as the Civic Association president years ago. She was so organized, as we said. But about that same time, I got to design the renovation to their house. So this was around 2000, which was really fun at the time, but I was so proud recently to be asked to redesign their kitchen. And being there, you know, when I was working with them, and how important, and I knew Mike, you know, across the years, and he loved to cook. And I take pride in, you know, trying to address whatever people really want, you know, within their kitchen, and watching the two of them try and resolve this thing that Mike had cooked, and I understood that he was so closely related to his kitchen over so many years, and I'm so upset now that he got into the thing that it took so much for him between the two of them to put this thing together and make such a beautiful thing, and he only got to use it for about a year, and I just want to say how proud I was to be able to help him do that thing, and I just wish that he was able to share it with you a little bit more.
Well, we've all shared some marvelous memories. I think we've all been moved by what most of the speakers, this one excluded, had to say. But as we wrap up and depart, I think that Shelley would agree with me that we've heard how much Mike meant to the community, how many different ways he contributed to the community. But the one thing that we'll all remember, the one thing that brought us here, at least from the way that I'm seeing the room and all of you, is he was a great friend to every single one of us. Thanks for coming.